morning. My name is Heidi Driscoll. I'm the new superintendent of Minuteman, and I want to take this time to sincerely welcome every single one of you to Minuteman. We are happy to have you here, not only so we can find out what you need from our students as your future workforce, but we're also happy to have you here because we need our students inspired to be a part of what you do for and with our communities. So I hope that many of you stay for the tours after this event, and I would invite you to feel free to reach out to me or to Nancy absolutely anytime, because we are happy to have you here and need you as our partners. So thank you very much.
Thank you. It's great to have Minuteman. A lot of great things going on here as well too. And I also want to thank. All right, this is a little bit crazy, so we're going to keep you guys on your toes. So sometimes we're going to be here, sometimes we'll be there. You just never know, but we're just going to keep going. So thank you to our sponsors, Enterprise Bank. I see Pam Dalton from my board as well too. Pam, thank you for sponsoring today's event, and thank you to AHC Architect, where's Corinne Molesky? I know she's here. There you are. Corinne, if you guys don't know Pam and you don't know Corinne, please get to know them. They're just great people, but great resources as well too. So thank you guys for sponsoring today's event. And we're going to change things up a little bit as well too. So I want to welcome and introduce today's moderator, Katie Enright from Howard Stein Hudson Engineering and Planning Company. And if you don't, again, yes, please. Katie's going to moderate today's conversation, and again, if you don't know Katie, well, hopefully after today you will. And there's a lot going on in Lexington. Thank you, everyone, for coming and participating. Obviously, there's a lot of interest in what's going on in Lexington. So I'm going to stop talking. I'll hand it over to you, and let's get the show going. Thank you.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Lexington. This is my first time moderating today, so please be patient. Stephanie's given me two jobs. One is to keep the conversation going, and the second is to keep us on time. So I'm going to try to do both of those things as we move through. Those of you who follow Lexington or don't know a lot about Lexington are going to learn a lot today. There's so much going on in Lexington, from being, well, first of all, they're going to celebrate their 250th birthday coming up this spring, which is a huge celebration that's being planned. They were one of the first communities to establish zoning for MBTA in the state of Massachusetts. So there is a lot being done in the town right now to develop and redevelop and help solve some of the housing crisis that the state of Massachusetts is currently in. There's also a lot around workforce development, and we've got Minuteman Technical. Nancy is here today to talk about how we're preparing our students in Lexington for the future and to help businesses come to the area. There's also a fantastic project that Sam's going to talk about later on today, a $300,000 essentially a luxury lab building that's being built currently and will be hopefully open this fall. That takes over an obsolete hotel that used to be right in an amazing location in Lexington. And then also some sustainability stuff that's happening. So Lexington's really working hard to set themselves up for the future. There's some amazing things being done with geothermal heat and grants that have been gotten. So you're going to learn a ton of information today. But first, I'd like to turn it over to Jim Malloy, who is the almost retiring coming up in September as the town manager for Lexington after spending 4 decades in public service. So please, everybody.
Is this microphone working? The table mic?
Yeah. That's for me.
It is working for you. It's for you. Okay, so maybe we need this microphone. So thank you. Yes, I'm retiring on September 30th. So one of the big things the town is obviously working on right now is the executive recruitment firm that is seeking my replacement. But a couple other big things we've been working on. I'm going to lead most of the development talk to economic development, our planning staff, and then Maggie will talk about some of the sustainability work that the town is doing. But one of the things that the town has done over the past 4 or 5 years, but spent about 15 years in the planning, was redoing the center of town. And so if you've gone through the center of Lexington in the last several years, you would have noticed that we tore up all of the sidewalks, all of the curbing, the street, all new lighting, all new seating. And the result that we've seen is that as some of the vacant storefronts that became vacant during the pandemic, the types of businesses that have actually located in the center of town are slightly upgraded businesses than what we had there before. And so we've seen some really nice redevelopment of some of the buildings in our downtown area. Last year we did a planning charrette for the center to make it a more vital area. And one of the outcomes of that charrette were the types of businesses that they were recommending would attract more people into the center, which, interestingly enough, the number one thing is high-end bakeries. And somehow we ended up with like 4 new high-end bakeries in the center of town in the last year. And so we actually are already attracting those types of businesses. The other thing that I wanted to talk about, and then I'll turn it over to Sandia or back to Katie, is the Lexington High School project. Lexington is in the design phase right now of building the largest, most expensive high school in the state's history. We're looking right now, the estimates are somewhere between $600 and $700 million. But for these projects, I think the most expensive school in the state was in the high 400 to low 500 million. So we're substantially above that. A lot of that is because we're planning out several years. We're planning on making a big investment up front in the sustainability of this school to make it a net zero building, which will have a long-term positive benefit to the town as far as our operational costs. But up front, there's a larger capital cost, and a lot of that is not paid for by the state. To mitigate the cost to taxpayers, so anybody here who owns businesses or property in Lexington, one of the things that the town has done is about 4 years ago, we began planning on how to mitigate the debt service cost to property owners. And what we're doing is all of the new net tax revenues generated by any of our PSDUP developments or any of the rezoned parcels on Hartwell Avenue, that net new property taxes are going into a capital stabilization fund permanently, which will then be used to pay down a portion of the high school. And as of right now, we're between 25 and 30% of the debt service cost on a $500 million school already being covered. And we have about 3 or 4 other projects that have been fully approved, both by town meeting as a PSDUP or in the Hartwell area, that have gone through all of the permitting stages, but because of the current office and lab glut in the market in the area, the property owners have not moved forward with those projects yet. But if those projects do go forward in the next 4 or 5 years, we'll actually be in the area of 50 to 60% of the high school cost actually being covered. So even though it's a very expensive high school, one of the challenges the select board gave us as staff was to come up with a way to mitigate that debt service impact on property owners in town. And so we've done a pretty good job, I think, because we've got other debt that'll be falling off, and so there should be a fairly small, noticeable tax increase, not a huge tax increase to property owners in town. So with that, I don't know if it should go to Katie, or if there are questions. However you want to do it.
Jim, we're going to make you get up and come to the podium because we have a little surprise for you. So, and with that, we'd like to introduce, I think most of you probably know Bob Buckley.
Those who don't know me, I'm Bob Buckley. I'm involved with Middlesex 3. I've been, I guess, since day one, and one of the major participants, guiding forces in Middlesex 3 over the years has been the town of Lexington, including Jim. We always took the view, I remember when we first gave the first, it's called a Bubba Stick, by the way. Our first Bubba Stick, for some reason I wanted to come up with something that would be would signify, leadership, and something that someone would say, what is that? And you could have a discussion about it. And it's amazing how people want to become a member of the order of the Bubba. So, but you've been a great leader. Your staff has been, over the years, tremendous in advancing the goals and objectives of Middlesex 3, which, as I've probably heard me say, which was to collaboratively work on economic development in this corridor. Everyone has different interests, everyone has different political bases, but when we all get in a room and try to talk through the issues, it's been a tremendous advancement, and we are now relevant. Or I used to say that if we could all become relevant, and I look out at the audience and we're relevant, and you with your national experience certainly was a very guiding force for Middlesex 3, and your staff has, as I said, been committed. So it's with great honor I present you with the Bubba stick. Finally give this, for some reason it cracked me up, but if you look at it, at the bottom, it says, Bubba stick, made in Texas by Texans. Whatever. Huh? Right, there you go. Stir with that. But again, when you look at that, someone says, what is that?
It's a Bubba stick.
It's a Bubba stick.
That's awesome.
Hey, thanks, Jim. Next, you're going to hear from some of our different departments in the town of Lexington. First, we're going to talk to Sandia and Jay. Sandia is the Economic Development Director in Lexington, and Jay is new to the town of Lexington and is her Senior Economic Development Coordinator to talk about some new initiatives in Lexington.
Thank you so much, Katie. Can everyone hear me? Good morning, everyone. I'm Sandhya Iyer. I'm the Economic Development Director for the town of Lexington, and let me see if I can see the presentation. Okay, there you go.
Gotta give it the arrow.
Yeah, we good? Okay, thank you so much. Sorry, I can't see that screen. What's happening in Lexington? A lot happening in Lexington. Literally, I think we are one of the towns that you can see. It's not a city, but we are a town that doesn't sleep. So we do have tons going on. I'm going to be short and be precise about what's going on. But let me start with an overview of land use, and this is something that has been predominantly our goals is that 44% residential, 26% open space, 6% commercial, 24% government and civic. So that's our land use statistics, and that doesn't change. So when you have such a small percentage of commercial space, how do you work with that small percentage of commercial space and make so much development happen in the town? So that was the first challenge that I started working with, and can you believe I joined the town back in 2020, I would say March. Everyone remembers that date, pretty much significant in everyone's life. So nowadays I call it 1VC, before COVID. So it's absolutely, that was in my first and initial interview was in person. After that, they were like, do you know how to use Zoom? I was like, yes. So can you imagine doing rezoning and everything else using Zoom? And that's how everything started. So when I joined the town, we were already growing. I'm not the only one who started this whole process in this region. So I'm going to be very fair enough that we already had some of the big names. We had the anchor tenant, Shire, and then now Takeda for the past, I would say, 14 years now. So Takeda definitely was an anchor tenant that helped us grow our life sciences bases in Lexington. So once you had that, how do you grow that? And oh, there you go. Okay, recess everyone. So the challenge that we had was with the 6% commercial space and with the opportunity that we have, how do we make sure that the life sciences companies and the growth that was happening, especially the boom that we were seeing during COVID, that we rezone accordingly to make sure that we can capture the development process. We knew that the land is not going to increase, so we definitely had to go higher up. So and you'll be hearing later from Sam, and Katie mentioned this, one of our first high rises, 6-story lab life sciences building where Margaritas, a rundown, motel and Margaritas was. It's one of the finest, lab life sciences that has been developed there. Please, you should come over whenever we have that ribbon cutting ceremony. But from there to 60 plus life sciences companies in 2024 and growing. Our latest one is Novo Nordisk, which brought us to 2 out of the top 20 life sciences companies from the world having a huge footprint in Lexington. So that really made a huge impact. One of the latest additions to that is Novo Nordisk and Nikon. Nikon has a new facility, and it's not far from here, actually, 10 McGuire. And we are also planning to have a ribbon cutting ceremony for Braskem, which is going to be their first international or US-based, operations, and they are into sustainability and life sciences. So they basically produce sustainable products for life sciences companies. So existing conditions, I'm not going to go very deep into this. Again, anyone who knows life sciences, that is pretty much everyone in this room and everyone in Massachusetts. Therapeutics is number one. It remains the same for Lexington as well. 58% of the businesses or life sciences businesses in Lexington have a therapeutic base, and antibodies and CT have grown a lot, especially after the pandemic, because antibodies have been so much popular. What you're seeing for CDMO and diagnostics is because of Thermo Fisher Scientific, which has a use base in Lexington as well. So this was the first map that you're seeing here is for the proposed rezoning development, which we called it as Hartwell Innovation Park. It was a hip park. So we started with this project, and we soon realized all the things that were going wrong. I'm not saying that everything went well, because one is that we are constrained by not just the land. There's a lot of wetlands over there, but we also had a flight easement. We have the Hanscom Airport right over there, so we definitely couldn't go way higher that we were hoping for. Having said that, our hopes were to go to 10 million square feet of life sciences, which were shrink to 4.5 million square feet of life sciences, which is not in any ways like a short goal that we are trying to achieve. We are already close to 1.5 million of life sciences development on Hartwell. So that's a big achievement, and I'm hoping that once the life sciences, this whole phase that we are seeing in the market, once it goes back up, as any other graph, it always has to go down and it always has to come down. It cannot go below than the state average or the national average. So once that goes up, we definitely have projects in the pipeline which will take us to that 4.5 million square feet of life sciences. So as I mentioned, 1 million square feet already in the pipeline, and you'll be looking at the 300,000 square feet of life sciences with the project that we'll be talking later today. And Hayden, Spring Street, Waltham Street, that's again 1.1 million square feet of life sciences development. All this development is, as Jim referred to, this is helping us create the, create that hub for not just the development which we are seeing within the center, but also helping us with our new high school that is being proposed. So, having said that, when we presented the rezoning for life sciences, the first question was, what about housing? Because predominantly Lexington is a single family housing community. So we didn't have much of housing stock in Lexington. So we definitely wanted some variety of housing. But at the same time, as we were doing this, Abby, myself, and the planning team everyone in the staff, we were discussing about not losing the scope of that 6% commercial. So being the first community getting the MBTA zoning, our first priority was not losing the commercial. So all our zones, almost all our zones, and you'll hear more from Abby, which are the zones, but we have like 12 different areas that have been rezoned or have an overlay district for MBTA zoning, have a mixed use component. So our first floor is for commercial use. So we definitely don't want to lose that commercial footing of that 6% or maybe increasing that to a little bit more. So you'll see a lot of development, and that also, if you see this area, this is Hartwell, this is our downtown and center, and this is towards Arlington, which is basically East Lexington, and this is towards the Spring Street Hayden. So we definitely have spread it across in Lexington where we could have potential development, and I'm gonna let the big numbers to Abby to speak about the development and the pipeline, because it's the amount of, I was at another panel the other day and I was saying that one thing what MBTA zoning has done is, unfortunately, none of our planning board or planning staff has been able to go to the Cape this summer. So all this development, but we are one of the first communities, again, one of the first communities to get adopted as a super stretch code community. So all our developments have to be non-fossil fuel development, which leads us to sustainability. And sustainability is a big initiative that the town is committed to. And we definitely wanted to make sure that resources are available for businesses to make that kind of investment in Lexington, because it's a huge investment for the developers to build without any fossil fuel, whether it's for lab life sciences or whether it's for housing. So Maggie, Pierre, you'll be hearing from Maggie later on. And I started working with a team of folks on a network geothermal project, and you'll be hearing more about that study and where that stands and how we are planning to utilize that for our future. So it's not all development. We also have fun in Lexington. Okay, we have a lot of fun in Lexington. So we actually did some zoning amendments in the annual town meeting 2024. Again, we were just talking about how many days that annual town meeting went on, the nights, and it's a long annual town meeting. But anyways, having said that, what we achieved was we were able to get our zoning, our sign bylaw redone. So the sign bylaw has been there for a long time. Given that we were looking at high-rise buildings, we were looking at MBTA zoning and high-rise for that as well. We definitely wanted to change our sign bylaw, which matches all this new development that we are hoping for. So the sign bylaw in itself has been replaced with a new sign bylaw that will allow not only signage towards Mass Ave, which is our downtown area, but also which is facing our public parking lots and the bike path that we have. Some of the other changes that we did was change the alcohol policy through the zoning. So earlier on, restaurant was very specifically defined as it has to have seating and the way you would imagine like a service. But now we have expanded that entire definition to be anything under the sun where you get food. So that makes it very, I'm putting it in simple words, but honestly, that was our intention to make it happen. Again, going back to the MBTA zoning, if that much commercial, we are demanding that much commercial, we definitely didn't want to have roadblocks to having those new commercial spots to have restaurants in them. So definitely that was one of the intentions that we had with the zoning policy and the alcohol policy. And the select board was also open to having a policy that would allow beer and wine licenses to places other than restaurant, which means events, movie theaters, and breweries. Who is not into breweries anymore? So we definitely are trying to attract more breweries. Anyone in this room, if you know of any brewers, please let us know. We'll be more than interested in talking to them and attracting them to Lexington. the biggest next thing happening in Lexington, if that was not enough, is the 250th. We are coming up with the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Lexington. I'm not going to go into the history lesson. You are actually sitting in the Minuteman High School. If you want to learn about history, please go visit the library and learn more about the history. But the Battle of Lexington is one of the first battles that took place in the Revolutionary War back in 1775. And we still have the battle green, which is the common that was there. So we are coming up to the 250th anniversary of that in April 19, 2025. It's a big celebration, and we did not want to host it all by ourselves. And I have some friends here, Katie Lusai from Arlington, and I don't see anyone from Concord, but Concord, Arlington, Lincoln, and Lexington joined forces, I would say 2 years back. And we started doing this as a intermunicipal, celebratory thing rather than doing it in silos. We are hosting a huge event throughout that weekend. We definitely see an opportunity because all the time we actually compete with the marathon. So a lot of people didn't know why they get the Patriots Day off. They thought it was because of the marathon. It's not Marathon Monday, it's Patriots Day. So we are reminding folks of that and definitely trying to attract the international audience that comes to the marathon to come to Lexington and the region, during that weekend to actually witness the history and witness the Revolutionary War reenactment that happens every year, early in the morning, if you're up for a 4:30 a.m. alarm, or actually I should say we are there by 4:30, so probably earlier than that.
I say 3:30.
3:30, yeah, exactly. So we are there pretty early. So at the dawn. So prior to the dawn. So this year we had the governor come in, but we are hoping the president might come in. Let's see, whoever the president is. So we'll have a lot of dignitaries come in for that one, and tons of events are happening. I already spoke about intermunicipal and multi-jurisdictional planning. I've been meeting this whole 250th committee almost every week, twice at this point. A lot going on in that direction with the state and even the America 250, which is going to happen in 2026. So there's a lot of planning going on that front. So why so much investment in tourism? What is the hype about tourism? So we are all interested in tourism, but we actually forget the revenue generating source that tourism is. So through tourism, the impact that we have is we collect local taxes is close to $3 million, and state taxes we collect is $6.3 million. It's a big industry for Lexington. From a state economic impact, what you're seeing is $24.2 billion industry in Massachusetts itself. So you can imagine the impact that this industry has for this region, not just for Lexington, but I'm talking about this region. There are at least 8,000 rooms, hotel rooms in this area. And I see Woburn, my friend from Woburn is here. So, the majority of rooms are in Woburn and Burlington. So definitely we have tons of opportunity right over there to attract all the people, and our basis of all these taxes are through hotel and meal tax, so we definitely want to generate that. As far as our estimates of how many people are going to visit during the 250th, the estimates are close to 1.5 million people coming to right here, Minuteman National Park, where we are, Minuteman National Park, and on general terms, 25% of those people visit Lexington, which is 250,000 people for that weekend. It's a huge crowd. So we have tons of events that we have scheduled, but fun things are happening as well. We just installed our new penny press. If anyone knows what a penny press is, please come to the visitor center. We would love to show you the penny press machine and get your new penny press coin. And then we unveiled a calendar, countdown calendar. We have a new monument called Something Is Being Done, which celebrates the lives of 26 women, but it's a lot of stories about how women have contributed for the past 250 years. There are more monuments, more events, and more things happening throughout the year just to make the celebration going on. I think we are going to hit the 250 days to the 250th year on August 12th. It's coming up. Having said that, that's me. Thank you. Next, I'm going to give it to Jay Abdullah, who's going to talk about all the developments that are, the fun things that are happening in Lexington.
Good morning. As Sonia said, my name is Jay Abdullah. I am the Senior Economic Development Coordinator for the town of Lexington, and this is my 4th week on the job. So, as Sonia says, everything we do in Lexington is fun, and this is just yet another fun thing we're doing. We have been fortunate to have received $100,000 in American Rescue Plan Act funding from our Select Board and Town Manager's Office to promote projects along the Minuteman bike path, namely businesses, the exterior facades, and area activations for both East Lexington, and we are anticipating Lexington Center as well. Area activation can be a very creative idea. We can put in park benches, we can put in bike racks, we can do murals, we can put in lights. My personal favorite is looking how alleyways can be transformed with canopies of umbrellas, lights, anything you can imagine. And which is why I'm really excited for this project coming up. As I said, we're focusing on East Lexington, which is important because East Lexington, as discovered in our East Lexington Rapid Recovery Plan, was hit harder during the COVID-19 pandemic compared to other businesses in Lexington. And we are hoping that with the addition of murals, as well as reimagining the parking lots and space behind these buildings, it will attract more bikeway users to come grab a bagel at Wicked Bagel, grab a drink, and utilize the potential of these businesses. And this is also in conjunction with our Wayfinder project and invasive species clear. So once we have cleared the invasive species along the Bow Street Minuteman bike path area, these buildings will be much easily be able to be seen by the 2,500 to 3,000 a day users on the bike path. In addition to East Lexington, we're also thinking of expanding the scope to Lexington Center as well. Namely, for those who know, the depot lot and the CVS parking lot. Similar to East Lexington, it is those buildings are visible by the bike path, but a lot of the time, as you're going down the bike path, you don't really notice these buildings because of the traditional facades, brick, and coloring. So we're hoping to brighten this up, add murals, add lights, add pretty much anything we can think of to attract more users to these businesses. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm especially excited as this area has an alleyway we can use for lighting, umbrellas, or whatever comes to mind for our potential prospective artists. And in addition to the ARPA projects, just some cool upcoming businesses. First off, as Jim mentioned, we have found ourselves with an influx of bakeries, and Tate is no exception. Tate is coming in August 21st, 2024, so mark your calendars because this is going to be an out-of-the-park experience. In addition to Tate, we're also welcoming several other businesses in the next 2 months. If you're looking for a new wardrobe, Dragonfly Boutique is coming right into Lexington Center. For those of you who know, it will be right across the street from the post office next to the town building. And in addition to Dragonfly Boutique, we're also seeing Liberty Suites coming in right by the Lexington Visitor Center. So this is also an amazing opportunity to come down, especially if you have a sweet tooth. And if you have any questions, inquiries, interests, please contact us at economicdevelopment@lexingtonma.gov. Or if you want to reach out to me personally, my email is jabdullah@lexingtonma.gov. And thank you so much.
And next up is Abby, the planning director for the town of Lexington. I'm not sure she actually sleeps, never mind go on vacation. I know we spent a significant amount of time together, myself being a civil engineer in her office, and thank you for all her time work.
Thank you. I'm Abby McCabe. As Katie said, I'm the planning director. I work in the planning office, which is part of the Department of Land Use, Housing, and Development. I work with everyone here that you see in the room tonight. And the planning office also works closely with the planning board. The planning board is an elected board that brings forward in rights and makes recommendations on all zoning amendments that go forward to town meeting. And they also largely review new development projects that come before the town. So it's mostly new subdivisions and new construction of new buildings. But today I'm going to give you some housing related updates that we're seeing in Lexington. Over the last couple of years, Lexington has had several major housing related zoning and policy regulation changes. I'd say it started with in 22, the planning board adopted a new comprehensive plan that had a heavy focus and strong goals related to housing and economic development. That was adopted by the planning board in 22, but it was after 5 years worth of work where community stakeholders had really dove into evaluating the existing conditions in Lexington and made recommendations for how land use should be developed going forward over the next 20 years. So that was a real opportunity for Lexington residents to reflect on the housing and land use patterns of Lexington and what we want to see going forward. So that kind of set up the process of what we've seen over the last couple of years. Shortly after that, in the fall of, actually it was fall 22, there were two significant changes at town meeting, which was the LexHab was a town entity that self-managed affordable housing in Lexington, but they were adopted at town meeting to branch off into their own independent nonprofit. They felt that that was better for them to help provide affordable housing for low-income residents. Also at that town meeting, adopted and created a new affordable housing trust, which essentially is a bank that provides funding and resources for the creation and preservation of affordable housing in Lexington. And Carol Kowalski, the Assistant Town Manager for Development, she apologizes that she couldn't be here today. She wanted to join this morning, but she is actually at the Affordable Housing Trust that are meeting right now. Since they were created, they've been meeting about twice a month, trying to reach their goals. And then last year, in spring 23, there were two major zoning amendments that were adopted at town meeting. So these were zoning changes geared towards producing more housing, more higher density housing, housing around public transportation. The first one was to comply with the MBTA communities law that most of all the towns in the surrounding area have to comply with to allow more housing through a by right approval process, so non-discretionary. And then also we amended what used to be a special permit process to allow higher density and more types of housing like townhouses and condos in all of our residential neighborhoods. That was changed to another by right process. And the idea was to allow more housing with a predictable permit path. And since the Affordable Housing Trust was created, they've been busy, and one of the first things they looked into evaluating town-owned land, and they worked closely with the select board to bring forward an article to town meeting this past spring for a property on the corner of Lowell and North Street to have that developed for 100% affordable housing. That was adopted at town meeting in the spring. And so that is currently out to bid right now. There's an RFP open. So hopefully that we'll get some submissions in the next several weeks. That's a 3-acre parcel, and the idea is that that would be an 100% affordable development at this town-owned location. And then the new zoning overlay districts that were adopted in spring of '23, that allows multifamily housing in several locations, 12 locations throughout town. They're mostly focused on areas near our business districts, so either in or in the commercial areas, allowing higher density housing above commercial, and then kind of near retail, because they really we wanted to see housing near locations that could provide services for residents, also attract customers to help support businesses. And they're all the districts are located near the bus routes in Lexington and also near the bike path. And it was important to us to propose, have this new zoning, the new housing developments be dispersed throughout town. The first application that came to the planning board, this was just approved last month, on Miriam Hill, 28 Miriam Street. There were two houses there, but they took advantage of that new zoning for special residential development districts to add 8 additional units, with one include what we refer to as inclusionary, often called the affordable unit. It's where one of the condos are going to be limited to someone of a lower income. But this is, at this location, there will ultimately be 10, all 2 bedrooms, except for the existing house is being converted, and there'll be one inclusionary that has 4 bedrooms. And then with the new village and multifamily overlay districts, our MBTA zoning, we now have, as of this moment, we have 5 applications in. It seems we've been meeting with property owners and developers, and every month or so we're getting a new application. It took about a year. The first one we got, 57 Piper Road, that was submitted exactly 1 year after the zoning was adopted at town meeting. That proposal is still, they're all still currently before the planning board going through that public hearing process. They haven't been approved yet, but they are, I expect ultimately they will be approved over the next few months. This is a condo development proposed for 46 units with 6 inclusionary, and it's a mix of 1, 2s, and 3 bedrooms. The second application we received is at 89 Bedford Street. There is a historic house on the property now with 2 family. That house is proposed to stay. It's going to be relocated to the front of the lot, and a new 30-unit, 2-bedroom condo building is proposed behind the historic house. And the third application we have is currently, it's coming to the planning board at tonight's planning board meeting. This is a proposal for 200 dwelling units at 331 Concord Ave. It is a rental, so we're seeing a mix. This is our first proposal for rentals that also has a wide mix of dwelling unit sizes, 1s to 3 bedrooms. Also, we have an affordability requirement, so that's 30 are included in this proposal. And that's all the applications we had at the time when I provided this presentation. But we did also just receive this week our first housing application on Hartwell Avenue. It also has a component for a retail use on that, a small retail building with also new rental units. So it took a little bit of time. We've been meeting with property owners, but we are starting to see development applications come in about a year after our new zoning was adopted. Stay tuned. Thank Thank you.
And next, we're going to hear from Maggie, who's the Sustainability and Resilience Officer for the town of Lexington.
All right, hello everyone. I'm Maggie Peard. I'm the Sustainability and Resilience Officer for the town of Lexington. And as many folks who have spoken before me have alluded, sustainability is a really large goal for the town of Lexington right now. We're one of the first communities to adopt the specialized stretch energy code, and we're also one of 10 communities in the fossil fuel-free building demonstration project authorized by the state. So a big goal to decarbonize our building stock. And so the project I'm talking about today is a network geothermal feasibility project, which is a kind of new innovative technology that will help buildings transition away from fossil fuels. So just to kind of explain what network geothermal is, first you need to understand what a heat pump is. Many in this room probably already are very familiar with that, but essentially it's electric heating and cooling system that doesn't create heat in the same way that a fossil fuel does. It actually just moves heat, so brings cool air in from the outside during the summer and warm air in from the outside during the winter. And it's a highly efficient heating and cooling system. So when we're talking about network geothermal, that's bringing these ground source heat pumps in connection with each other across multiple buildings. So there's a ground source heat pump in each building. There's some piping in the street and these bore holes that go down to take advantage of this standard temperature of the ground. And essentially, because you're able to then share that heat across multiple buildings, it's more efficient than just a single ground source heat pump because you can share heating and cooling loads across multiple buildings. And not only do you have that sharing benefit, but you also have long-term storage. So in the winter, you can store, or in the summer, you can bring heat down into the ground and store that for many months. And then in the summer, in the winter, bring that heat back up to heat your buildings. So just to give a sense of kind of the efficiency of this, a high efficiency gas furnace has a coefficient of performance, basically an efficiency measurement of less than 1. So you're putting one unit of energy in and you're getting less than 1 out. If you're looking at an air source heat pump, that's 2 to 4, so 2 to 4 times more efficient. But then if you go to a network geothermal system, that has an average system coefficient of performance of nearly 6, so 6 times the efficiency of a traditional gas furnace. So this is huge in both reducing heating and cooling cost and also reducing the demand on the electric grid at a time when we're really moving towards electrification in all of our energy uses. So what Lexington is looking at, we're granted a $50,000 grant to do a feasibility study for network geothermal. It's through a program called Kickstart Mass, which is administered by HEAT. They were given funds by the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center, and they're really looking at how can we accelerate this technology and have some shovel-ready projects that we can start to implement. So we are one of 14 municipalities awarded funding. And this is coming right at the heels of a project in Framingham for a network geothermal project that actually is online as of about a month ago. So we're kind of looking at that as an example. This really exists, it really works, and Lexington's eager to see if we can bring it to our town. In terms of our motivation, we recently completed a climate action plan that was adopted by our select board that included a greenhouse gas inventory. And you can see in the yellow in this chart is all of the energy and emissions that are coming from buildings and energy. A lot of it, the electricity, natural gas, fossil fuels that are required to heat and cool our buildings. So if we're going to achieve net zero emissions by 2050, which is our goal, we really need to focus on the building sector. And so one of our actions in our climate action plan was to do this feasibility study for a network geothermal project. And our specific project is really asking the question of, is this technology possible using large lab buildings? We're seeing it a lot with mixed-use areas, a combination of homes and small businesses. But because we have very intensive energy users in our large lab buildings, we want to see, is it possible to do it there? This chart shows kind of the emissions from different property types. These are just from buildings over 25,000 square feet. But you can see laboratories, industrial buildings, offices, they're really using the lion's share of energy. So kind of with that in mind, we're looking at 4 potential sites with this project, and trying to focus in on some of those areas that have those large lab buildings. So one is the Hartwell Avenue area. And a key thing about this is there's already lab buildings, but there's also, it's one of the areas with the new MBTA zoning. So there's potential to bring in housing as well. And these network geothermal systems are especially effective when there's a balance of different uses. So if you're able to balance office and lab space with larger residential developments, your system becomes even more efficient. Bedford Street is a little bit of an exception. It doesn't have those same large lab buildings. That large building there you can see is the town's public service building. And here there's a mix of single family homes, small businesses. But again, this is in the village overlay district, so some potential for larger developments to come in. This is Hayden and Spring, so largely just large lab and office buildings. Some potential for diversification with those neighborhoods behind it, but a little bit less of a diverse site. And then finally, this is Waltham Street. So you're seeing Revolution Labs, the Brookhaven development, and some of the Avalon developments. So again, that balance between lab buildings and residential. Some of the key things we're looking at for this project is really like, what are the site and design considerations? So some of that is more technical, like is there the geology and hydrology required to make this system work on a technical level? What types of buildings are there? As I mentioned, a balance of building types is really beneficial. But also thinking about longer term planning in the town. So if there are street projects planned to tear up the road, that's going to be a good time to put new piping for this sort of project in. And probably most importantly is willingness of participants. We just earlier in July had a really great stakeholder meeting with some of these property owners, largely on the Hartwell area, to talk in more detail, kind of present this idea and get a sense of their concerns and questions. And so that was a really productive meeting and seeing kind of what site would be most beneficial and the interest levels. So this project goes until the end of 2024. It's really, we're just getting to a very, very initial design. To really move this forward, we'll need a much larger grant to do that work, but this is kind of a first step, and we're really excited to be pushing this forward with HEAT's help. Thank you.
And next is Sam with Trammell Crow Company to talk about the redevelopment at 440 Bedford Street.
Good morning, everybody. I didn't realize I was coming to Jim's retirement party, so Jim, congratulations. And thank you for all of your partnership over the years with Abby and Sandy. We've had just a very, very positive experience working in Lexington, and we would love to do a lot more. It is very, very difficult to develop real estate in the Boston area and in New England. It's overbuilt in many ways and undersupplied, and as many of you know, there's a lot of public opposition to development across all product types, and it's been really a breath of fresh air to be able to work with your team and to be as productive as we've been able to be. I have about 45 slides. I'll spend 3 or 4 minutes on each slide, if that's okay. Yeah, by early afternoon. What I'd like to do is just sort of provide an overview of the 440 Bedford project. I will skip through a bunch of this to talk a little bit about the scope of the work and kind of how it is we conceive the project and where it is we are today. A little bit about Trammell Crow Company. We're actually one of the largest real estate development companies in the United States. We're wholly owned by CBRE Richard Ellis, so we're part of the CBRE platform, but we function very much independent of CBRE. Trammell Crow has been around for about 75 years. There's a lot of confusion in the market between Trammell Crow Residential and Trammell Crow Company. We're two completely different companies, but we share a name. The Trammell Crow Residential Company is part of the Crow Holdings family, and we're part of the CBRE platform. The company, though, has been around for about 75 years. We operate in about 28 different markets, mostly in the United States, but with a growing business in Europe. We kind of break down our business into sort of two different buckets. There are projects that we consider to be in the pipeline, which are sort of twinkles in our eye, and then there are projects that are in process, ones where we're actually putting real capital towards it, and we have partners that we're working with, and in many cases out of the ground. We work on a number of different product types, so primarily industrial distribution type buildings, multifamily buildings, life science buildings, office, and then mixed use projects. A lot of awards and recognitions. So 440 Bedford. So 440 Bedford's about a 310,000 square foot purpose-built life science building on Bedford Street. And it is scheduled to be delivered sort of towards the third quarter of this year. So I think probably by the time Jim retires, we will hopefully receive our certificate of occupancy from his team. So we're targeting just after Labor Day weekend to complete the project. The reason why we sort of targeted this submarket is fairly obvious. The project was conceived in really sort of late 2020, early 2021. We identified the site. The town of Lexington had put new zoning in place, which we were eager to sort of jump all over. And the life science market, of course, was cranking, right? I mean, there was not nearly enough space in the market to support the demand. There's tons of money that was flowing into the industry through both the NIH and venture capital. You can sort of see the progression of investment in VC funding, and there's a clear correlation between VC funding and NIH funding and occupancy of space that drives requirements. So that was really sort of fueling a lot of growth in the market. And the business case simply was that we figured that we wanted to be in a really well-established submarket, so we didn't want to try and go out and plant a flag and create a whole new cluster, a whole new life science submarket. We wanted to develop and deliver a project in a really well-established submarket. Hartwell Avenue met that criteria. Very, very strong submarket, a lot of great tenants, a lot of great owners, a lot of great sponsorship, obviously a great place to do business. So there's good company there. And the opportunity for us was to deliver a purpose-built life science building that would be a good sort of competitive alternative to some of the newer product that's being delivered in Kendall Square and in East Cambridge, and to be able to compete against some of the older projects that exist on Hartwell Avenue that are sort of been repurposed and redeveloped over the years. So we kind of liked we loved the business opportunity that we thought existed there. So great submarket, and wanted to really sort of take advantage of the new zoning there. As Sandy mentioned, there was a hotel, a no-tell motel on the site, which came down once we closed on the project. So we identified the site. The way we work typically is we put the land under agreement. The seller gives us some time to kind of go through the process of getting the project conceived, the design work, working with the city, getting the entitlement kind of pointed in the right direction. And we do the math on it, make sure the math works. And we come up with a design that we like, and we sort of work off of that basis for a period of time. And then finally, we sort of put together a deal and start putting together a team, which we're really happy with. So Demilla Schaefer was the architect on the project. We brought on Callahan as the general contractor, and really had a great team that we'd assembled and felt really good about it in the fall of '21. This is just a quick image of the site plan. The project today looks very different than this site plan, but there's sort of an important component to this, which I probably won't get into, but we arrived on a slightly different floor plan to address the amenities and to deal with some certain conditions around the retail condo that exists on the site. Large parking garage. Eventually what ended up happening was we went vertical in July of 2022. We went through what we consider to be the immaculate completion. What we'll do is we closed on the land on the same day that we finalized our joint venture agreement with our investor. It was the first time that we did a deal with Invesco, who's our capital partner. Invesco is actually representing a very large German pension fund who is actually doing a lot of the funding and making the investment in the deal right now. So you have a lot of focus from Europe on Lexington. So what you do here really does matter. It is a big market and an important market for our investors. Trammell Crow is based in Dallas. Invesco is based in Dallas. There'd been a goal of us trying to do business together for about 30 years. I had the good fortune of negotiating the first joint venture agreement with Invesco, which is where I lost most of my hair. And then we put debt on the project, and you might get a little laugh out of this. Western Alliance Bank is the lender on the project. You may have remembered that Silicon Valley Bank went belly up, and then First Republic Bank went belly up. There was a lot of focus on these regional banks going belly up, and Western Alliance Bank was at the very top of that list. That's when I lost the rest of my hair, because we were really worried about, we had a very favorable loan in place with Western Alliance Bank. We were really worried about that going sideways on us. So we sort of run the gauntlet on that, and we got the project up and running, and everything's great, and we've got a great leasing market. Here's some images from the project about a year ago, once we topped out on steel. October of 23, you can see the facade starting to go up. Where are we now? So the project, according to our business plan, is supposed to schedule in November of 24. We're going to complete it and really in September of 24. We'll have some interior work to do with the amenities, which I'll talk about in a second. And this is some of the images you see here from the topping out party that we did last September. This is a picture from just a few weeks ago from a drone shot. You can see that it's really starting to come together. A lot of the landscaping is going in, a lot of the hardscaping is going in, the building is weather tight, completely sealed up. We're getting close to finalizing a lot of the infrastructure, so the HVAC systems and all the plumbing systems, all that's at the point where we're just about to start commissioning all of that, which is exciting. A couple of other images, great views, really, really beautiful views. The building's really well situated, a lot of good setbacks and a lot of good natural light. There's some really pretty walking path that we're putting in that sort of wraps around the building, kind of gets you out closer to where some of the wetlands are there. So it's really going to be quite beautiful once it's complete. It's an image sort of looking east. If you squint, you can see the skyline from Boston, which is nice. And then some renderings of what the lobby's going to look like. So in the far end of this space here, we're putting in a number of different amenities. We finalized a deal with Kraft Food Hall. I'm sure many of you have heard of and work with Kraft Food Hall, so they're going to be coming in to provide food service, which we're very excited about. We also have worked out a deal with, there's a CrossFit gym in Waltham called Tilt. They have an operation also in Sudbury. They've got some spin classes. And I've worked with them over the years. They're going to come in. They're not running a CrossFit studio, but they're going to be running a number of different fitness classes, and they'll have CrossFit type equipment, but they're going to have a workout program that's going to be hopefully attractive to and inviting to lots of different types of members. So we're excited about that. We're also going to have a golf studio in there. I don't think it's going to help me at all, but hopefully some other people will get some benefit out of it. I'm hopeless when it comes to golf. Image of the fitness center here. So where are we now? So good news is that the project is nearly complete. We're on budget, on schedule, but the leasing market is now not so great, right? So we're delivering into what's a very, very challenging market. And so we're really trying to get the building leased up. There's the kind of the complexion of the market has changed in a rather dramatic way. There used to be many large tenants that were kind of hunting around for and competing for space. The average size of the tenants has really reduced, and the number of tenants that are in the market have also really reduced. So there are more of us landlords and developers that are delivering into this market that are competing for sort of the smaller subset of tenants. So it's a very difficult market. We have very nervous investors in Germany, but everybody's still very committed to this project and excited. We still really believe in the market, and we really believe in this product type, especially in the Boston market. We think purpose-built lab space wins. There's a lot of data that supports that tenants are continue to be attracted to the newer product. We're just going to be in the grainy gear trying to get it leased up. We're not going to be swinging, with one swing of the bat and putting it over the fence. It's going to be a number of different deals over a longer period of time, but that's fine given the way that we structured this deal. In this market, with capital markets being as competitive as they are, investors have a lot of alternatives that are safer, lower on the risk spectrum. Debt is obviously a lot more expensive than it was about 2 years ago when we launched this project, and there aren't as many tenants out in the market. Having said all that, like a lot of the development in the pipeline, which we were worried about competing with a lot of other newer purpose-built life science buildings. A lot of those projects have been put on hold. So that's good news for us. We still have a real challenge on the demand side of tenants. But what that means is that there are fewer projects that are going to be delivering over the course of the next few years. So as the market kind of keeps bumping along, VC money is starting to flow again. NIH money has been pretty constant, but it's starting to ramp up again a little bit. Sandy talked about therapeutics. I mean, there's a lot of growth opportunities still in this market, and we really believe that the market still has a lot of room to grow. We sort of feel like we're kind of in the second or third inning of this wave with the life science industry. Boston has it's really sort of ours to lose, if you will. There are a lot of markets around the U.S. that are competing to kind of build some of those life science markets, but it's really kind of ours to lose, I think, and we're doing a very good job, I think, in this market to sort of save it, retain it. And we feel good about the future. So hopefully we can get this thing leased up and move on to the next one, because we really would love to do a lot more business in Lexington, in this area of the market. We think it's a great place to do business. It's a great place to live. And we're excited about it and grateful for the opportunity. Happy to answer any questions if people have them. Thank you.
All right, and lastly, we have Nancy, our host today, and Executive Director of Minuteman Tech, to talk about workforce development.
Thank you. So I know it's after 11. So many wires. So if anybody needs to leave, feel free to do so now. But I'm really excited to talk to everybody about Minuteman Technical Institute and what we can do for you. So Minuteman Technical Institute has been around for 6 years. It's a self-standing component of the district, meaning that we are self-funded, although we do receive an enormous amount of support from the district. Of course, we're housed here. We have use of the facilities. We have worked with their communications department. We're all one team, but financially MTI is its own entity. The post-pandemic focus for our programs has been on workforce development. Previous to the pandemic, we had a lot of leisure learning activities or one-off classes that folks in the region could participate in. We have continuous improvement in our areas of outreach, recruitment, enrollment, and retention. We work with students who are 18 years of age and older, and we work with a lot of adult students who have gone to college, have tried college, have finished college, who are career changers, or those folks who are doing what they've always wanted to do and they feel that now is the time for them to do it. We've been awarded over the past 4 years over $4 million in grant funding for workforce training development, and that went right to Minuteman Technical Institute. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. And in January of 2025, we're going to launch a new program in groundskeeping and maintenance. We base a lot of our CTI funded programs off of a regional blueprint that's been developed by the Mass Hire and Executive Office of Labor and Workforce Development. And we do try to support those non-traditional students and bring them into areas where they have been underrepresented. We have a number of Chapter 74 programs, which means they've been approved by the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education as viable career and tech ed programs. The high school programs, grades 9 through 12, those are all Chapter 74 programs, and they have particular licensing requirements for the instructors, equipment requirements, square footage requirements, safety requirements, and MTI is happy to have a number of those. Our most viable have been the following 10-month tuition-based programs, which are automotive technology is a 900-hour program, cosmetology is a 1,000-hour program, and students who successfully complete that program have earned the 1,000 hours that are needed to sit for the Massachusetts Board of Cosmetology and Barbering licensing exam. They also have a public-facing shop experience, so I put a little flyer up around November 1st. We will reopen for evening salon appointments, and it's really kind of a great thing to give our students that real hands-on experience with customers. And sometimes we have customers that come back and say this wasn't quite right, and it's really a fine thing because it affords the students an opportunity to understand, you know, what to do better next time. Our automotive shop is also public facing as well. So once the students have been here for a couple months, they've gotten used to being in their classroom, they're comfortable. They'll start out with oil changes and maybe filter changes, but you can also contact the MTI office and we will make you an appointment to have your car worked on. And then we have an electrical program, which is very popular. We have a waiting list for this. It's a 700-hour program split between related theory, learning the electrical code, of course not the whole electrical code, but they're learning how to interpret it, how to use it as a resource, and add that to their toolkit, and then they have the 350 hours of hands-on experience. They also take part in off-site work experiences. For example, the district has 3 properties on Mill Street, which is behind this building, and one has been converted into our animal science program, so there needed to be plumbing redone, there needed to be electrical redone. The students during the day couldn't get it all complete. Our evening students went in and were able to work on that as well. A lot of our students in the electrical program are working full-time during the day, and they come to us in the evening, and they just really do show how much they're interested in that area. All of our students in the Chapter 74 programs leave with their OSHA 10 safety training, their hot work training, tools to get them started. So everything that we've been hearing about today, the infrastructure, the construction, the building, the bike trails, you know, this school can provide you with employees that can build those bike racks, that can help with the wetlands, that can wire your buildings, that can plumb your buildings, that can design artwork for your buildings. We're a hidden gem amongst the historic battlefield site. Electrical students also earn 300 hours towards their state licensure. Of course, they will accumulate along the way, and they take additional training programs to help them move to journeyman and then master electrician. But they've got an excellent diving point from us. Our CTI programs, which are the grant-funded programs, are 15-week training programs that are intended to train and then get into the workforce, cohorts of 10 to 12 students. We have the Carpentry Pre-Apprentice Program, which is a really solid partnership with the Carpenters Union. And 97% of the students in that program go right into an apprenticeship shortly, if not before they're done with our program, shortly thereafter. They also get the OSHA 10, the hot works, scaffolding training, harness training. We're providing them with boots and tools. They train here in the evening, and then on Saturdays, they train at the Millbury Carpenters facility. And they do everything from learning to read a tape measure to metal studs. They're up on scaffold. It's amazing what they learn. And then they go out and they are hired by probably the contractors that are working on the buildings. I guarantee you with the new school that they're building in Lexington, we will have students on that project. They're snapped up right away. Another grant-funded program is plumbing Tier 1 training. If you know how the process of becoming a licensed plumber works, there are 5 instructional levels that you need to reach between the time you start your adventure to journeyman to master plumber. Tier 1 here provides them the first 110 hours of code instruction. They also get 110 hours of hands-on instruction. They get their OSHA and hot works. They get tools and boots. It satisfies Tier 1 of the 5-tier system in the state. And the last group that we graduated from here, 5 of those students are with us for Tier 1. The cohort before that, 5 students are here for Tier 2. The cohort before that was a smaller cohort. We had 6 students. By the time they all graduated, 5 of them were hired full-time by plumbers in the region. And then we have the welding training program, which is 220 hours of hands-on training, tools and boots provided. Those students receive an OSHA 30 safety training, hot work, and then they have the option to sit for 2 American Welding Society certificates. And then they also have an opportunity in the Carpenters Union and in the Ironwork. So basically what I'm saying to you today, any workforce development need that you have for any of the industries that you talked about today, the bakeries, the housing, the life science programs, this district can provide you with. I especially would like to include more towns and municipalities as our partnerships because our students don't like to leave. Well, they have to leave us, but they don't like to leave the region. They like to stay around. They like to do what they're trained to do. I invite you, if you're with a municipality, please contact me. Let me know what you're looking for. We can certainly set up some time to have our students meet with your departments. If you're here in the area in the evenings, you want to come in and see what our students are learning and talk to their instructors, please do. If in the fall you would like to come in and check out our salon, check out our auto department, please feel free to do that. Come have lunch here during the day after October. It's really a great place. We're happy to host you today. I could go on and on about our great kids, our great instructors, our great facility, our great equipment. What we really need to do is make some more great partnerships and be of service to the economic development of the region. Thank you.
And I think that wraps us up. Obviously, we're significantly over. We want to thank HG. We want to thank Enterprise Bank for being our sponsors today. I'm Katie Enright. Hopefully I didn't do a great job of keeping us on time, but I'm a civil engineer with Howard Stein Hudson's Chelmsford office. And Stephanie, do you want to say a few words before we go?
Thank you. Again, thank you to our panel as well, too. You guys, there's certainly a lot going on in Lexington, so thanks for all the work that you guys are doing. And I know we're over time. However, if you're able to stick around, there is a tour, Nancy. If you're interested in taking a tour and learning more about what's going on at the school, please stick around. And also, if you 2 things actually, we'd like to get a photo of the panel. So, And also, especially if you're new here, please, we'd love to hear from you. I know many of you have heard from George Katchen over here as well too. If you want, grab some more coffee. We can continue to talk and grab a seat and connect with George as well too. And again, thank you everyone for your time today.